It's 2:17 a.m. on Thursday, November 7th, 2024. Across Los Angeles, most people are asleep. But in 13 neighborhoods spanning from MacArthur Park to Van Nuys, from Boyle Heights to Inglewood, 147 federal agents are moving into position. They wear black tactical gear. They carry battering rams, flashbang grenades, and court-authorized warrants. They communicate through encrypted radios on a frequency the Sinaloa Cartel can't intercept. In 17 minutes, they will simultaneously breach 22 doors. Behind those doors, $47 million in cash, 280 kilograms of fentanyl, 89 firearms, and 34 people who believe they are untouchable. What none of those 34 people know, what their bosses in Culiacan don't know, what their corrupt law enforcement contacts don't know, is that for the past 8 months, every message they've sent, every location they've shared, every photograph of cash stacks and drug shipments has been flowing directly into a DEA database in Virginia. The encrypted phones they trusted were compromised from the factory. Their security system became their exposure. Their communication network became the rope that will hang them. In a command center at the DEA's Los Angeles Field Division, Special Agent Rebecca Morales watches 22 live feeds from body cameras. Her headset crackles with position reports. Alpha team in place. Bravo team ready. Charlie team locked. Down the line through the alphabet. 22 teams. 22 targets. One synchronized breach. She takes a breath, checks her watch one final time, and speaks 2 words into her microphone. Green light. The largest coordinated cartel takedown in Los Angeles history begins with the sound of splintering wood. Rebecca Morales was born in El Paso, Texas in 1981. Her father was a Border Patrol agent who worked the I-10 checkpoint. Her mother taught English as a second language at a community college. Rebecca grew up watching drugs flow north and money flow south, watching her father come home exhausted night after night, watching corruption eat away at good men who couldn't feed their families on government salaries. She knew by age 15 what she wanted to do with her life. She graduated from the University of Texas at Austin, with degrees in criminology and Spanish. She joined the DEA in 2003, spent 3 years working street-level cases in Phoenix, then got recruited into the agency's Special Operations Division in 2006. Between 2006 and 2024, she worked investigations that resulted in 247 arrests, the seizure of $89 million in assets, and the dismantling of 6 major trafficking networks. She speaks fluent Spanish and passable Mandarin. She's 5'6", keeps her dark hair cut short for practicality, and has a scar on her left forearm from a knife attack during a raid in Tijuana in 2011. What sets Rebecca apart isn't physical courage. Plenty of agents have that. It's her ability to think like the people she hunts. She understands that drug trafficking isn't just crime, it's business. The cartels operate with the sophistication of Fortune 500 companies. They have HR departments, logistics coordinators, compliance officers who ensure product purity, and customer service representatives who handle complaints. Rebecca studies their organizational charts the way Harvard Business School students study Apple or Amazon. She knows that to truly dismantle a cartel, you can't just arrest street dealers or even mid-level managers. You have to attack the infrastructure, the money, the communications, the supply chains, the institutional knowledge. That's what led to Operation Iron Vise. In February 2024, Rebecca's team caught a break. A mid-level Sinaloa operative named Christian Valdez got arrested in San Bernardino with 40 kilograms of methamphetamine in his trunk. Facing 25 years mandatory minimum, Christian made a choice. He cooperated. During his debriefing, he mentioned something interesting. The cartel had started requiring all California operators to use a specific encrypted messaging app called Shadowlink. The app was supposedly designed by Russian hackers and impossible to crack. Cartel leadership in Mexico mandated its use. No exceptions. Rebecca immediately knew what that meant. Anytime a criminal organization standardizes its communication on a single platform, it creates a single point of failure. If you can compromise that platform, you compromise the entire network. She reached out to the FBI's cyber division. They reached out to the NSA. And after 3 weeks of investigation, they discovered something beautiful. Shadowlink was indeed created by Russian hackers, But those hackers had been arrested by Russian authorities in 2022. To reduce their sentences, they'd agreed to provide backdoor access to their software. The Russian government wasn't interested in Mexican cartels, but the NSA was. Within a month, the DEA had full access to Shadowlink communications across North America. Every message, every photo, every GPS coordinate, every voice call. 8 months of intelligence gathering followed. Rebecca's team built organizational charts, tracked money flows, identified safe houses, mapped distribution networks, and waited. They needed enough evidence to ensure convictions. They needed enough targets to make the operation worthwhile. And they needed absolute secrecy, because one leak would cause the entire cartel network to scatter like cockroaches when the lights come on. Tonight is the culmination of 8 months of work. Tonight, Rebecca either becomes a legend in federal law enforcement or presides over a disaster that will haunt her career forever. There's no middle ground. Either they get all 22 targets, or word spreads, and they get none. Either the intelligence holds up in court, or defense attorneys shred it and 36 criminals walk free. Either this operation cripples the Sinaloa Cartel's Western operations, or it teaches them how to avoid detection next time. Rebecca has been awake for 31 hours. She's consumed 6 cups of coffee and eaten nothing but a protein bar since yesterday afternoon. Her hands are steady. Her voice is calm. But inside, her mind runs through every possible failure scenario. Equipment malfunction, wrong address, civilian casualty, officer-involved shooting that triggers a media firestorm, cartel violence and retaliation, corrupt cop tipping off a target at the last second. The list of things that can go wrong in a multi-site tactical operation is essentially infinite. But Rebecca didn't get to where she is by dwelling on fear. She got here by preparing for every contingency she can control and accepting the existence of contingencies she can't. Her teams are the best in the business. Her intelligence is solid. Her legal authorization is airtight. At some point you've done everything you can do, and then you have to trust the work. She watches the countdown clock on the command center wall. 90 seconds until breach. Her deputy, a 22-year DEA veteran named Marcus Chen, stands beside her. Nervous? He asks quietly. Rebecca doesn't take her eyes off the screens. Terrified, she says. But that's the job. 60 seconds. Across Los Angeles, 22 teams are in position. Alpha Team sits in 2 unmarked vans outside a luxury condo building in Century City. Target, Unit 847. A 3-bedroom apartment where the cartel counts and stores bulk cash. Intel suggests $8 million is currently inside, along with 2 armed guards and 3 money counters. The building has 24-hour security, surveillance cameras in every hallway, and residents who include entertainment industry executives, tech entrepreneurs, and a former NBA player. Collateral damage isn't an option. Team leader Agent Sarah Kimball, 34 years old, 12 years with the DEA, checks her team's gear one final time. 6 agents, 1 battering ram, 3 flashbangs, ballistic shields, weapons drawn but safety's on until they're inside. The building security guard has been briefed and told to stay in his booth. The elevator to the 8th floor has been remotely disabled to prevent escape or reinforcement. The stairwells are being monitored by agents positioned on floors 7 and 9. 30 seconds, Kimball says into her radio. Her team adjusts their positions. Adrenaline sharpens everything. Colors look brighter. Sounds seem louder. Time starts doing that strange thing where it simultaneously speeds up and slows down. 300 miles south in Culiacan, Mexico, a man named Hector Zambada is about to go to sleep. Hector is the Sinaloa Cartel's regional director for California operations. He's 41 years old, educated at UCLA with a business degree, and responsible for overseeing $600 million in annual revenue. He thinks of himself not as a criminal but as a logistics executive who happens to work in a prohibited industry. In his mind, he provides a service that people want. The violence is regrettable but necessary to maintain market share. The corruption is simply cost of doing business. The American government's war on drugs is hypocritical given America's insatiable appetite for narcotics. Before bed, Hector checks his Shadowlink messages. Reports from Los Angeles. All operations normal. No law enforcement activity detected. Shipments on schedule. Revenue projections meeting targets. He sleeps well, believing his California network is secure, professional, and insulated from detection through multiple layers of operational security. He's wrong. Back in Los Angeles, Bravo team surrounds a warehouse in Vernon, an industrial neighborhood southeast of downtown. The warehouse is registered to a shell company that supposedly distributes restaurant supplies. In reality, it's where the cartel receives fentanyl shipments from Mexico, presses the powder into counterfeit prescription pills, and packages them for distribution across the western United States. Current inventory: 180 kilograms of raw fentanyl. Estimated street value: $18 million. Estimated lethal doses: 90 million. 9 people are inside right now, working the night shift. Team leader Agent James Rodriguez, 29 years old, former Marine Corps infantry, knows this is the highest stakes target of the operation. Fentanyl is extraordinarily lethal. A few grains, an amount invisible to the naked eye, can kill. If the raid goes wrong, if someone panics and dumps product, if a bag tears and powder becomes airborne, his entire team could be dead in minutes. Everyone is wearing respirators under their tactical masks. Everyone has naloxone injectors in their gear. Everyone knows this breach is particularly dangerous. Charlie team is positioned outside a modest single-family home in Pacoima, a working-class neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. The house belongs to a 67-year-old woman named Rosa Martinez, who hasn't committed a crime in her life. But Rosa's grandson, Miguel, lives in her converted garage. Miguel is 24, has a criminal record dating back to age 16, and currently serves as the cartel's weapons custodian for Los Angeles. The garage contains 47 firearms, most of them AR-15 variants, along with body armor, ammunition, and night vision equipment. Rosa doesn't know any of this. Miguel told her he works in construction and needs the space for tools. Team leader Agent David Park, 38 years old, 14 years with ATF before transferring to the DEA, has a particular hatred for gun trafficking. His younger brother was killed in a convenience store robbery in Oakland in 2009 by a teenager with a stolen Glock. David thinks about his brother every time he confiscates an illegal weapon. He wonders whose brother or sister or parent might still be alive if that particular gun had never reached the street. Down the line through the alphabet. 22 teams. 22 stories. 22 people about to have the worst night of their lives. In the command center, Rebecca watches the clock count down to 0. Her finger hovers over the radio transmit button. She takes one breath. Then she speaks. All teams execute, execute, execute. The sound of 22 breaches happening simultaneously is impossible to describe adequately. Imagine thunder mixed with car crashes mixed with controlled explosions. Wood splinters. Metal hinges tear from frames. Flashbangs detonate with light so bright it temporarily blinds anyone looking directly at it, and sound so loud it disrupts the inner ear's equilibrium. Agents pour through openings shouting commands in English and Spanish. Federal agents, get on the ground, hands where we can see them. Nobody move. Alpha Team's breach in Century City goes textbook perfect. The door to Unit 847 gives way on the second ram strike. Flashbangs fill the condo with light and noise. 6 agents flood inside. They find exactly what the intelligence predicted. 2 armed guards, 3 money counters, and cash. So much cash. Stacked on dining room table. Filling a bedroom closet. Packed into black duffel bags. One of the guards reaches for his weapon. A catastrophically stupid decision. Agent Kimball's number 2, a sharpshooter named Lisa Torres, puts a red laser dot on the man's center mass and shouts, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Drop the weapon or you die right here." The guard's hand freezes 6 inches from his holster. Time expands. Everyone in the room understands that the next 2 seconds will determine if anyone dies tonight. Torres's finger applies 3 pounds of pressure to a trigger that breaks at 4.5 pounds. The guard's hand begins to move away from his weapon. He raises both hands. "Don't shoot," he says in Spanish. "Don't shoot. I'm done." Kimball moves forward, secures the guard's weapon, forces him to the floor, and cuffs him in 11 seconds. The second guard is already prone, hands behind his head, smart enough to recognize overwhelming force. The money counters, 3 women between ages 19 and 34, are terrified, crying, but compliant. Nobody dies. Nobody gets hurt. Target 1. Secured. At the Vernon warehouse, Bravo Team's breach is more complex. The building has reinforced doors designed to slow exactly this kind of raid. The first door takes 3 ram strikes. Precious seconds tick away. Rodriguez knows that every second of delay gives the people inside time to destroy evidence, flush drugs, or arm themselves. His team finally breaches. They encounter a second reinforced door 20 feet inside. Another delay. More ram strikes. When they finally reach the processing room, they find chaos. 9 workers scatter. Pills spill across tables. Plastic bags tear. White powder drifts through the air. Exactly the nightmare scenario Rodriguez feared. Respirators, he shouts unnecessarily. His team already has them on. Agents tackle fleeing workers. Someone tries to run out a back door. An agent clotheslines him, drives him to the concrete floor and cuffs him in one fluid motion. But the powder is airborne. Rodriguez's eyes start watering even through his respirator. The concentration isn't lethal, not yet, but it's dangerous. Secure the scene and evacuate, he orders. His team drags 9 cuffed suspects out of the building. Hazmat units will have to process the warehouse. The fentanyl seizure will take hours, but everyone's alive. Target 2, secured with complications. At Rosa Martinez's house in Pacoima, Charlie team faces a different problem. When David Park's team breaches the garage, they find Miguel awake, watching TV, with an AR-15 leaning against the wall 3 feet from where he's sitting. Miguel's first instinct is to reach for it, another catastrophically stupid decision. Park doesn't hesitate. He fires his taser. 2 barbs hit Miguel in the chest. 50,000 volts drop him instantly. Park's team swarms, secures Miguel face down on the floor and cuffs him before his muscles stop spasming. But the commotion wakes Rosa. She comes out of her house in a bathrobe, sees federal agents surrounding her property, sees her grandson on the ground and starts screaming in Spanish. "What are you doing to my baby? He's a good boy. He works construction. You have the wrong house." Park has to make a decision. Standard procedure is to secure all witnesses, which means putting Rosa in handcuffs. But she's 67 years old, has no criminal record, and genuinely doesn't know her grandson is a weapons trafficker. Park makes a judgment call. He holsters his weapon, approaches Rosa with his hands visible, and speaks to her in Spanish. Not perfect Spanish, but respectful Spanish. "Ma'am, I'm sorry for the disruption. Your grandson is under arrest for federal weapons charges. You're not in any trouble. We need you to stay inside your house while we secure the scene. Can you do that for me?" Rosa looks at her grandson, looks at the agents, looks at Park. Understanding starts to dawn. Her face transitions from anger to confusion to horror. "Weapons?" she says. "What weapons?" Park gestures toward the garage. An agent is carrying out the first of 47 firearms. Then another, then another. Rosa's knees buckle. Park catches her, helps her to her porch, sits her down. "I'm sorry," he says quietly. "I know this is terrible news." Rosa starts to cry. Target 3, secured with emotional collateral damage. Engagement number 1. Before we continue, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city and state in the comments. This story happened in Los Angeles, but the drug epidemic touches every corner of America. Small towns in West Virginia, suburbs in Ohio, reservations in New Mexico. I want to know where this story reaches. And as we go deeper, I want to hear your thoughts. This isn't just true crime entertainment. This is about something happening in your community right now. In the command center, Rebecca watches 22 screens, 22 breaches, some clean, some messy, but all of them successful so far. No officer casualties, no civilian deaths. The operation is proceeding better than she dared hope, but she knows the most dangerous phase is just beginning. The breaches are over. Now comes the processing, and processing is where things can fall apart, because once suspects are in custody, they can make phone calls. Even though all suspects' phones are immediately confiscated, some have backup phones hidden in their clothing or stashed nearby. Some have partners who weren't present during the raid, and in the age of social media, information travels at the speed of thought. One Instagram post, one text message, one panicked phone call to Mexico. That's all it takes to compromise the remaining targets. Rebecca does the math in her head. 22 targets breached simultaneously. Estimated time for word to spread through the cartel's communication network, 12 to 18 minutes, assuming standard security protocols. That means she has roughly 15 minutes before cartel leadership in Mexico realizes something catastrophic is happening. 15 minutes before they start burning evidence, evacuating safe houses, and activating contingency plans. 15 minutes before this operation transitions from surprise raid to ongoing tactical situation. She checks her watch. 3 minutes have elapsed since breach. 12 minutes remaining. "Marcus," she says to her deputy. "Status report. How many targets have we fully secured?" Chen works his keyboard, pulling data from field reports flowing into the command center database. 14 confirmed secure, 6 in progress, 2 no contact. Rebecca's stomach tightens. "What do you mean no contact?" "Teams Oscar and Papa aren't responding to radio checks. Their last transmission was initial breach confirmation 3 minutes ago." 2 teams. Silent. That's not good. Radio malfunction? Tactical complication? Or something worse? Rebecca switches her display to Teams Oscar and Papa's body camera feeds. Oscar Team's feed shows static. Papa Team's feed shows nothing. Black screen. "Get me a supervisor on scene at Oscar and Papa locations," Rebecca orders. Now. While Chen works his radio, Rebecca tries to maintain the big picture. 18 of 22 targets responding normally. That's an 82% success rate. In a multi-site operation this complex, that's actually exceptional. But that remaining 18% represents unknowns, and unknowns kill operations. Team Oscar was assigned to a storage facility in East Los Angeles, a climate-controlled unit where the cartel supposedly keeps financial records and ledgers. Low-risk target. 2 suspects expected. Minimal weapons. Should have been straightforward. But Oscar Team's leader, Agent Tim Morrison, is a 16-year DEA veteran. He doesn't go radio silent without reason. Team Papa was assigned to a residential home in Inglewood that functions as a stash house for cocaine waiting to be distributed to regional dealers. Medium-risk target. 4 suspects expected. Possible weapons. Team Papa's leader, Agent Nicole Reeves, is newer to the DEA, only 4 years, but came from LAPD SWAT with 8 years experience. Also not someone who goes silent casually. Chen gets a response from field supervisors. Oscar location. Team entered the storage facility and found it empty. No suspects, no evidence. Possible decoy address. Team is conducting secondary sweep. Rebecca's jaw clenches. A decoy. That's exactly what she feared. The cartel didn't build a $600 million operation by being careless. They've been running counter-surveillance protocols. They've been testing their security. And somewhere in the intelligence gathering, either the DEA got bad information, or the cartel intentionally fed false information to see if anyone was watching. "What about Papa?" Rebecca asks. "Papa location?" Chen pauses, listening to his earpiece. His face goes grim. Papa Team found the house occupied, but wrong suspects. The people inside are a family with no apparent cartel connection. Team is verifying identities. 2 wrong addresses. Out of 22 targets, 2 are misses. Rebecca's mind races through implications. If the cartel provided false addresses deliberately, that means they knew someone was watching, which means they know about tonight's operation, which means her phone rings, not her cell phone. The secure landline on her desk. Only 3 people have that number. Her direct supervisor, the DEA administrator, and the director of national intelligence. She picks up. "Morales." "Rebecca, it's Anderson. Deputy Administrator Bill Anderson, her boss's boss. Calling at 2:27 a.m. This is either very good news or very bad news. I'm watching the operation feed from Washington. You've got 2 teams reporting bad intelligence. Tell me you're confident in the remaining targets." Rebecca makes a decision. She could hedge, could express uncertainty, could cover herself legally. But that's not why she's in this position. She got here by making tough calls. "Sir, I'm confident. 2 decoys out of 22 targets represents a 9% error rate. That's well within acceptable parameters for an operation of this complexity based on 8 months of signal intelligence. The cartel may have suspected surveillance and planted false information to test us. But they can't fake 280 kilograms of fentanyl and $47 million in cash. The 20 targets we've secured are legitimate. I recommend we proceed with processing and prosecution. Silence on the line. Anderson is calculating political risk. If Rebecca's wrong, if more targets turn out to be innocent families or empty buildings, this operation becomes a scandal. Civil rights violations, improper warrants, overreach. Every defense attorney in Los Angeles will have field day. The media will crucify the DEA. Congressional hearings will follow. But if Rebecca's right, this operation becomes a blueprint for future cartel takedowns. 8 months of signal intelligence leading to a single coordinated strike that dismantles a regional distribution network. It's exactly the kind of tactical innovation the DEA needs to stay ahead of increasingly sophisticated criminal organizations. All right, Anderson says finally. Proceed with prosecution. But Rebecca, no more surprises tonight. If another target goes sideways, I want to know immediately. Understood, sir. She hangs up. Chen is watching her. We're proceeding? We're proceeding. What's the status on the remaining 6 targets? The remaining 6 targets resolve quickly. Echo Team secures a drug processing lab in Boyle Heights. 17 kilograms of cocaine, 3 suspects, no resistance. Foxtrot Team raids a money laundering front business in Koreatown. $3.2 million in cash hidden inside commercial washing machines. 5 suspects. Minimal resistance. Golf Team hits an apartment in Silver Lake being used as temporary housing for smuggled persons. 12 undocumented immigrants from Honduras and Guatemala, found locked in 2 bedrooms. 3 cartel enforcers arrested on human trafficking charges. Hotel Team breaches a luxury home in the Hollywood Hills. A reward property given to a high-performing regional manager. The manager, a 31-year-old former accountant named Daniel Ochoa, tries to run. He makes it as far as his backyard before a police K-9 unit intercepts him. The dog, a Belgian Malinois named Rex, is trained for suspect apprehension, not killing. Rex takes Daniel down with a bite to the thigh, holds him until agents arrive, then releases on command. Daniel will need stitches but survives intact. Inside Daniel's house, agents find something unexpected. A wall safe containing not drugs or money, but documents. Ledgers, spreadsheets, transaction records, names of corrupt officials, payment schedules for bribes, routing numbers for shell corporations in the Cayman Islands. Daniel wasn't just a regional manager. He was the cartel's chief financial officer for California. The documents in his safe represent 5 years of financial intelligence. Prosecutors will use them to dismantle money laundering networks, freeze assets, and potentially indict corrupt law enforcement and political figures. India Team hits a warehouse in Wilmington near the port of Los Angeles. This is where maritime shipping containers from Mexico get unloaded, opened, and distributed to secondary locations. The warehouse is enormous, 40,000 square feet. Agents find 3 shipping containers in various stages of processing. Container 1, furniture from Mexico, legitimate. Container 2, auto parts from Mexico, legitimate. Container 3, furniture from Mexico, not legitimate. Hidden inside hollowed-out furniture, 89 kilograms of methamphetamine with a street value of $8.9 million. Juliet Team raids an auto body shop in Compton. The shop does legitimate repair work during the day. At night, it serves a different purpose, installing hidden compartments in vehicles for drug transportation. Agents find 6 cars in various stages of modification. They also find the shop's owner, a 54-year-old master mechanic named Alberto Ruiz, who's been building hidden compartments for the cartel since 2011. Alberto's craftsmanship is exceptional. His compartments are invisible to casual inspection, accessible only by manipulating specific sequences of vehicle controls, and lined with materials that block X-ray scanning. Over 13 years, Alberto has modified an estimated 400 vehicles. Those vehicles have transported an estimated 12,000 kilograms of narcotics across state lines. Alberto has never been arrested. He keeps meticulous records, lives modestly, and considers himself a craftsman, not a criminal. Tonight, his career ends. Agents arrest Alberto, seize his records, and confiscate the 6 vehicles. Federal prosecutors will use those vehicles as evidence in dozens of trafficking cases. Defense attorneys who previously argued that prosecutors couldn't prove how drugs got into their clients' vehicles will now face Alberto's documentation showing exactly which vehicles got modified and when. By 3:15 a.m., 58 minutes after the initial breach, all 22 teams have completed their primary objectives. 20 targets secured successfully, 2 targets revealed as decoys, 32 suspects in custody, 2 targets had no suspects present, 89 firearms seized, 280 kilograms of fentanyl secured, 47 kilograms of other narcotics, cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, $47 million in cash and assets, 0 officer casualties, 0 suspect fatalities, 2 suspects injured, 1 taser deployment, 1 police canine bite, 12 innocent undocumented immigrants freed from captivity, 1 elderly woman traumatized by discovering her grandson's criminal activities. By any objective measure, Operation Iron Vice is a success. But the operation isn't over, because while DEA agents have been conducting raids across Los Angeles, someone in Mexico has been trying to call his California lieutenants. And those lieutenants aren't answering their phones. Hector Zambada wakes at 3:47 a.m. to the sound of his phone vibrating. He's groggy, disoriented. His phone is set to Do Not Disturb mode except for emergency contacts. Someone from his emergency list is calling. He checks the screen. Carlos Mendez, his second-in-command in Los Angeles. Hector answers. This better be important. Carlos's voice is tight with panic. We have a problem, a big problem. I can't reach anyone in LA. Not the Century City crew. Not the Vernon warehouse. Not the Pacoima house. Nobody's answering phones or responding to messages. Hector sits up, instantly alert. His mind shifts from sleep to crisis mode in 2 seconds. Maybe everyone's asleep. All 30 people, at the same time? And I'm getting weird reports. One of our street dealers texted me an hour ago saying he drove past Rosa Martinez's house and saw police everywhere. Another guy said the Vernon warehouse is locked down with crime scene tape. Hector's mouth goes dry. Police everywhere and crime scene tape means one thing: raids. But simultaneous raids at multiple locations means something bigger. Coordinated law enforcement action. Federal operation. His entire California network potentially compromised. He swings out of bed, starts getting dressed while keeping Carlos on the phone. How many locations are you unable to contact? 14 so far. I'm still working through the list. 14 locations. Hector does the mental math. 14 simultaneous raids requires massive resources. DEA, FBI, ATF, local law enforcement. That kind of coordination takes months of planning, which means they've been under surveillance for months, which means his communications are compromised, which means the phone he's currently holding might be part of the problem. Hector hangs up immediately. Doesn't say goodbye, doesn't explain, just ends the call. He pulls the battery out of his phone, an older model specifically chosen because it has a removable battery. Modern smartphones can be accessed remotely even when powered off. Removing the battery is the only way to be certain the phone can't transmit location data or audio. He walks to his bathroom, drops the phone and battery into the toilet, urinates on them for good measure, an old cartel trick. The acidity supposedly damages electronic components, then flushes. He goes to his bedroom closet, removes a false panel, and retrieves a go bag he prepared 3 years ago for exactly this scenario. The bag contains $50,000 in cash, a fake Mexican passport under a different name, a fake driver's license, a burner phone, and a loaded Glock 19. Hector's wife stirs in bed. "What's wrong?" she asks sleepily. "Work emergency," he says. "I need to go to the office, go back to sleep." She doesn't question him. After 12 years of marriage to a cartel executive, she's learned not to ask questions. She rolls over and closes her eyes. Hector leaves his house through the back door, walks 3 blocks to where he keeps a backup car, a nondescript 2019 Honda Accord registered to a shell corporation, and starts driving. He doesn't know where he's going yet. He just knows he needs distance between himself and any location law enforcement might associate with him. While driving, he uses the burner phone to call his boss, a cartel executive 3 levels above him in the organization. The phone rings 6 times. Then voicemail. Hector doesn't leave a message. In the cartel, silence often communicates more than words. A missed call from a subordinate at 4 a.m. means crisis. His boss will understand. Hector's mind races through implications. If his California network is compromised, that represents a $600 million revenue disruption. The cartel leadership will want someone to blame. They'll want an explanation. They'll want to know how federal law enforcement penetrated their operational security. And they'll want consequences for whoever's responsible. Hector thinks about his family, his wife, his 2 daughters, ages 9 and 7. They're sleeping peacefully in his house right now, unaware that their father's career has just imploded, unaware that they might be in danger, unaware that daddy might not be coming home. For the first time in his criminal career, Hector Zambada considers something he's never seriously considered before: cooperation. The DEA offers witness protection. They relocate families. They provide new identities. In exchange, they want testimony, information, names, details. Everything Hector knows about cartel operations, financial systems, corruption networks, and leadership structures. The question is, does Hector value his freedom and his family's safety more than he fears cartel retaliation? Because if he cooperates with federal authorities, he becomes a target. Not just him, his wife, his daughters, his parents, his siblings, his cousins. The cartel doesn't forgive betrayal. They make examples. They send messages. Hector keeps driving. He has a decision to make, and he has maybe 6 hours before cartel enforcers start looking for him. While Hector drives through Culiacan trying to decide his future, Rebecca Morales is in her Los Angeles command center managing the aftermath. 32 suspects in federal custody. Processing begins immediately. Every suspect gets read their Miranda rights. Every suspect gets offered a phone call to an attorney. Every suspect gets photographed, fingerprinted, and entered into federal databases. Rebecca knows the next 48 hours are critical. Right now, these suspects are scared, disoriented, and vulnerable. Some will stay silent and wait for cartel-provided attorneys. But some will panic. Some will realize the magnitude of the evidence against them. Some will start doing the math. Federal mandatory minimums for drug trafficking, weapons charges, money laundering. 20 years, 30 years, life sentences. And some will decide that cooperation is preferable to dying in prison. The first suspect to break is Maria Vasquez, one of the money counters from the Century City condo. Maria is 23 years old, born in Los Angeles, graduated from Cal State Northridge with a degree in accounting. She's been working for the cartel for 18 months. Her job is to count cash, verify denominations, and prepare deposits for laundering through legitimate businesses. She earns $4,000 per week, far more than any legitimate accounting job would pay a recent graduate. But she's not a hardened criminal. She's a young woman who made bad choices because the money was good, and she didn't fully understand the consequences. When DEA agents sit her down in an interrogation room and explain that she's facing 20 years mandatory minimum for money laundering conspiracy, Maria starts crying. "I just counted money," she says. "I didn't sell drugs. I didn't hurt anyone." The interrogating agent, a veteran named Patricia Wu who specializes in financial crimes, speaks gently but firmly. "Maria, I understand you didn't sell drugs directly, but you were an essential part of a criminal enterprise that distributed fentanyl. Do you know how many people died from fentanyl overdoses in Los Angeles last year? 1,843. Some of those deaths were caused by drugs that moved through the organization you worked for. Some of that money you counted came from those sales. In the eyes of the law, you're part of the conspiracy." Maria's tears intensify. "What happens to me? That depends on you," Wu says. "If you cooperate, if you provide information about the organization's financial operations, federal prosecutors can offer you a deal. Reduced sentence. Maybe witness protection if you're concerned about retaliation. But Maria, this offer expires fast. The first person to cooperate gets the best deal. The second person gets a slightly worse deal. By the time we get to the 10th person, we don't need more cooperation. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Maria understands. She's being offered a chance to reduce her prison time in exchange for betraying the people who employed her. It's not a complicated calculation. 20 years versus maybe 5 years. 2 decades in federal prison versus being free before she turns 30. What do you want to know? Maria asks. Over the next 3 hours, Maria provides detailed information about the cartel's money laundering operations. She identifies businesses used to disguise drug proceeds. She describes the counting procedures, verification protocols, and deposit schedules. She names the people who supervised her work. She estimates the volume of cash moving through the Century City location, approximately $2 million per week. Most importantly, she provides something federal investigators desperately need: corroboration. Everything Maria says can be verified against the physical evidence seized during the raids: the cash in the condo, the ledgers found in Daniel Ochoa's house safe, the phone records extracted from seized devices. When everything aligns, when witness testimony matches documentary evidence, prosecutors build unshakable cases. By 6:30 a.m., 3 more suspects have agreed to cooperate. Alberto Ruiz, the master mechanic who built hidden compartments, provides information about vehicle trafficking methods. One of the guards from the Century City condo identifies cartel enforcers and describes the organization's security protocols. A worker from the Vernon fentanyl lab explains the pill-pressing operation and names his supervisors. Rebecca watches these interrogations via video feed. She sees the pattern emerging. The lower-level suspects cooperate. The mid-level suspects stay silent. The high-level suspects immediately request attorneys. That's standard. The people at the bottom have the least to lose from cooperation. The people at the top have the most to lose. But there's one mid-level suspect who surprises everyone. Daniel Ochoa, the chief financial officer whose house contained 5 years of financial records, asks to speak with prosecutors. Not through his attorney, directly. He says he has information about cartel operations that goes beyond California. He says he can identify corrupt officials at the state and federal level. He says he wants witness protection for himself and his family. Rebecca immediately recognizes what this means. Daniel isn't just offering testimony about street-level operations. He's offering to dismantle the cartel's institutional infrastructure: the money, the corruption, the political connections. This is exactly the kind of cooperation that transforms a successful raid into a generational case, the kind that gets written about in law enforcement textbooks. She authorizes federal prosecutors to begin negotiation with Daniel. The terms are straightforward: complete cooperation in exchange for witness protection and a reduced sentence. Daniel will testify before grand juries. He'll provide documents, recordings, and financial analysis. He'll identify every corrupt official he's ever paid. He'll explain the cartel's money laundering systems in detail sufficient for prosecutors to dismantle them. In exchange, Daniel will serve maybe 8 to 10 years in federal prison instead of life. His wife and 2 children will be relocated through witness protection. They'll get new identities, new lives. They'll never see Mexico again. They'll never contact extended family. They'll spend the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders, wondering if today is the day a cartel hitman finds them. It's not a good deal, but it's better than dying in prison. Daniel signs the cooperation agreement at 8:15 a.m. Engagement number 2. Stop here for a second. We just watched several people make the choice to cooperate with federal authorities against a violent criminal organization. Some people call them snitches, rats, traitors. Other people call them witnesses, cooperators, people who chose redemption over continued criminality. Where do you stand on this? Is there honor among criminals, or is cooperation the smart play when you're facing life in prison? This isn't a theoretical question. Real people make these choices every day. Real families get relocated into witness protection. Real consequences follow both cooperation and silence. What would you do? Not what you think you should do. What would you actually do if a federal agent offered you a choice between 30 years in prison or witness protection? Think about it. Be honest with yourself. Comment below. Let's talk about it. By 10 a.m. on November 7, 2024, the immediate tactical phase of Operation Iron Vice is complete. 32 suspects are in federal custody. Evidence is being cataloged and processed. Seized cash is being counted. Final total, $47.2 million. Seized narcotics are being weighed and tested. 280 kilograms of fentanyl, 47 kilograms of other drugs. Seized firearms are being traced through ATF databases to determine their origin. Rebecca Morales finally leaves the command center. She's been awake for 39 hours. Her eyes burn, her head aches. She needs food, sleep, and a shower, in that order. But first, she needs to brief her superiors and prepare for the media circus about to begin. At 11 a.m., the DEA holds a press conference. Deputy Administrator Bill Anderson stands at a podium surrounded by Los Angeles law enforcement leadership, the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, the FBI's Assistant Director in Charge, the LAPD Chief, and representatives from ATF and Homeland Security. Behind them, a display table shows some of the seized evidence: bricks of cash, bags of pills, assault rifles. Anderson delivers a prepared statement. Last night, federal and local law enforcement conducted a coordinated operation targeting Sinaloa Cartel operations in Los Angeles. This operation resulted in 32 arrests, the seizure of 280 kilograms of fentanyl, 47 additional kilograms of narcotics, 89 firearms, and over $47 million in cash. This represents one of the largest cartel takedowns in Los Angeles history. He continues. This operation was the result of 8 months of investigation using advanced signal intelligence techniques. I want to emphasize that this investigation was conducted entirely within constitutional bounds. Every search warrant was authorized by federal judges. Every arrest was based on probable cause. Every suspect's rights have been and will continue to be respected throughout the prosecution process. Anderson takes questions from reporters. The questions are predictable. How did you infiltrate the cartel's communications? Are there more arrests coming? What impact will this have on drug availability in Los Angeles? Is the Sinaloa Cartel still operational in California? Anderson provides careful, legally vetted answers. He doesn't discuss specific intelligence methods, can't reveal the Shadowlink compromise that's classified. He confirms that the investigation is ongoing. True, federal prosecutors are still building cases. He acknowledges that disrupting one drug distribution network doesn't end the drug trade. Cartels are resilient, adaptable organizations. He expresses cautious optimism that this operation will reduce fentanyl availability in the short term. What Anderson doesn't say, what he can't say publicly, is that Operation Iron Vice represents a new paradigm in cartel investigations. For decades, law enforcement has fought the drug war primarily through street-level arrests and border interdiction. Arrest dealers, seize shipments, repeat endlessly. But that approach doesn't work against sophisticated criminal organizations that operate like corporations. You can't arrest your way out of a $600 million business. What does work is attacking infrastructure, communications, finances, supply chains, institutional knowledge. Operation Iron Vice succeeded not because agents kicked down doors, though they did, but because investigators spent 8 months mapping the cartel's network, understanding its operations, and then striking simultaneously at every critical node. That's the future of cartel investigations. And if the Shadowlink compromise remains secret, the DEA can potentially use the same technique against other criminal organizations. But secrets rarely stay secret forever. In Culiacan, Hector Zambada has made his decision. At 11:30 a.m., after driving aimlessly for hours, he pulls into a shopping center parking lot, uses his burner phone, and calls a number he memorized years ago but never expected to use, the DEA's tip line. The operator who answers is professional, neutral. Drug Enforcement Administration, how can I help you? My name is Hector Zambada, he says in English. I'm a regional director for the Sinaloa Cartel. I want to discuss cooperation in exchange for witness protection for myself and my family. There's a brief pause. The operator is undoubtedly verifying the name in databases. Then, Mr. Zambada, I'm going to connect you to a case agent. Please stay on the line. 60 seconds later, Rebecca Morales is on the phone. She's exhausted, but adrenaline snaps her back to alertness. Hector Zambada, the primary target of Operation Iron Vice, is calling voluntarily to discuss cooperation. This is almost unprecedented. Mr. Zambada, this is Special Agent Rebecca Morales. I'm supervising the Los Angeles operation. Before we continue this conversation, I need you to understand several things. First, anything you tell me can be used in court. Second, I cannot make promises about witness protection or sentencing without involvement from federal prosecutors. Third, if you're calling from Mexico, you're outside U.S. jurisdiction, and we cannot guarantee your safety. Do you understand? I understand, Hector says. I'm in Culiacan. I know you raided my California operations last night. I know my entire network is compromised. I know the cartel will blame me for the security failure. I have maybe 48 hours before they decide I'm a liability. I want out. I want protection for my wife and daughters. I want to relocate to the United States. In exchange, I'll provide testimony about everything: operations, finances, corruption, leadership. Rebecca's mind races. This is a golden opportunity, but it's also incredibly complicated. Hector is in Mexico. The DEA has no authority to arrest him or protect him there. Getting him safely to the United States requires coordination with Mexican authorities, who are notoriously corrupt and potentially compromised by the cartels. Mr. Zambada, if you're serious about cooperation, we need to move quickly. I'm going to put you in contact with our attaché at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. He'll coordinate your safe transport to the border. But I need you to understand, once you cross that border, you're under arrest. You'll be in federal custody. You'll face charges. Your cooperation might reduce your sentence, but you will do prison time. Are you prepared for that? Yes, Hector says without hesitation. I'm prepared. Over the next 6 hours, the DEA coordinates an extraction operation that reads like a spy novel. The U.S. Embassy sends a diplomatic vehicle to pick up Hector. Mexican federal police provide escort, after intense negotiation and background checks to identify officers without cartel connections. Hector, his wife, and his 2 daughters are driven to Tijuana. They cross into San Diego at 6:47 p.m. under diplomatic escort. The moment Hector steps onto U.S. soil, DEA agents arrest him. His wife and daughters, who have no criminal involvement, are taken into protective custody. Within 24 hours, all 5 family members are relocated to an undisclosed location. Hector begins his debriefing. His wife and daughters begin the traumatic process of accepting that their lives have permanently changed. Hector's cooperation provides investigators with something they've never had before: real-time intelligence from a cartel executive who understands the organization's strategic operations. Over weeks of debriefing, Hector identifies corrupt officials in Mexico and the United States. He explains money laundering systems. He describes the cartel's recruitment methods, security protocols, and succession planning. He names names. Federal prosecutors use Hector's information to indict 17 corrupt officials, including 2 Mexican police commanders, 1 DEA agent, who will face trial for providing information to the cartel, 3 Los Angeles police officers, and several Border Patrol agents. The indictments send shockwaves through law enforcement on both sides of the border. To understand why Operation Iron Vice matters, you need to understand the broader context of drug trafficking in America. The Sinaloa Cartel is one of the most powerful criminal organizations in the world. Formed in the 1980s, it has evolved from a regional marijuana trafficking group into a multinational corporation that moves cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and fentanyl across continents. The cartel earns an estimated $3 billion annually. It employs thousands of people. It operates sophisticated logistics networks rivaling Amazon or FedEx. It has research and development departments that synthesize new drugs. It has customer service representatives who handle complaints from distributors. Fentanyl has transformed the cartel's business model. Unlike cocaine or heroin, which require large cultivation operations in South America or Afghanistan, fentanyl is synthetic. It's manufactured from chemical precursors purchased legally from Chinese pharmaceutical companies. Those precursors get shipped to Mexico. Mexican labs synthesize fentanyl powder. The powder gets pressed into counterfeit prescription pills that look identical to legitimate oxycodone, Xanax, or Adderall. These counterfeit pills flood the American market. Teenagers buy them thinking they're getting real prescription medication. College students take them to study. Adults use them recreationally. Many don't know they're taking fentanyl, and fentanyl is lethal in minute quantities. 2 milligrams, an amount barely visible to the human eye, can kill an adult. In 2023, fentanyl killed approximately 75,000 Americans. That's more than car accidents, more than gun violence, more than any previous drug epidemic in American history. It kills people in rural West Virginia towns. It kills people in wealthy Los Angeles suburbs. It kills teenagers. It kills grandparents. It doesn't discriminate. Operation Iron Vice seized 280 kilograms of fentanyl. That's 280 million milligrams. At 2 milligrams per lethal dose, that's enough fentanyl to kill 140 million people, nearly half the U.S. population. Obviously, that's theoretical. Not all fentanyl reaches users, not all doses are lethal, dosing varies. But it illustrates the scale of the problem. By disrupting the Sinaloa Cartel's Los Angeles operations, Operation Iron Vice potentially prevented thousands of overdose deaths. It disrupted distribution networks that supply the entire western United States. It seized cash that would have financed future operations. It arrested people whose expertise and connections would have been used to rebuild trafficking operations. Operation Iron Vice marks a shift from traditional street-level drug enforcement to a national security-style approach that treats cartels like sophisticated, adaptive organizations. Investigators use long-term signal intelligence, multi-agency coordination, and strategic targeting to compromise communications, map networks, and hit multiple critical nodes at once, creating a model that could apply to other high-level criminal or terrorist structures. The results are impressive on paper. Dozens of arrests, heavy sentences, especially for those who refuse to cooperate, millions in asset forfeitures, and hundreds of kilograms of fentanyl removed from circulation. Yet the human consequences are uneven. Cooperators like Maria and Daniel gain reduced sentences and new identities, but live with exile and broken family ties, while non-cooperators face decades in prison, and families like Rosa's are left to process shock and grief. In the broader context, the operation stands as a tactical masterpiece in a long, grinding conflict. It disrupts a $600 million network for about 18 months before the cartel rebuilds with new people, routes, and methods. The fentanyl crisis continues, and overdose numbers keep climbing, suggesting that enforcement alone can't solve the problem. Law enforcement buys time and saves individual lives, but real, lasting change would require deep investment in treatment, prevention, and addressing the social conditions that drive demand.